This program is underwritten by the generous support of Stored Tech, technology solutions for computers, networks, and phone. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
Firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's a regular town board meeting. Queensbury, Town of Queensbury Town Board meeting. It's March 19th, 2018. Time is 7 p.m. Would you all please rise and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome and thank you for attending. The first item before the board tonight is a resolution that involves the Board of Health. And it's a public hearing, and we must first move into the Board of Health to entertain this. Is there a motion to move into the Board of Health?
I'll introduce.
Introduced by Councilman Medevere.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councilwoman Atherton. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. We're now in the Board of Health. Rose, would you please read what the public hearing is about?
It's a public hearing on sewage disposal variance application of Tom and Terry Kubricki.
Okay, Tom and Terry Kubricki. It is a lot labeled 89 Pilot Knob Road. They are requesting, it's an on-site disposal system, and they're asking for four variances. It's a dry well, 94 feet from the existing well line instead of the required 150-foot setback. Septic tank is 8.5 feet from the westerly property line instead of the required 10-foot setback. Dry well is 4 foot from the westerly property line instead of the required 7-foot setback. And a continued use of the dry well, which is 6 foot in diameter and 4 foot deep, with an absorption area of 755 feet instead of the required 183 feet of absorption area. That must be a typo.
It's not. It's square feet versus 755 feet.
Oh, okay.
I questioned that as well, and I thought it was a typo, but it's not. It's square feet.
Thank you, Councilman Medevere. Okay, is there anyone that would, an agent to the applicant or the applicant that wants to speak to this? Yes, sir, come on up.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, it's about the piece of property there up at Pilot Knob Road, and John O'Brien and Craig Brown have really been a big help doing all this layout for me on this. So what I did is I went to them to get a permit to put a kitchen and a bathroom, to redo the kitchen and bathroom up there, and it's a 330 square foot A-frame. I don't know if you folks have gone up there to see it. It's and there's an existing 1,000-gallon concrete tank, and there's a 6-foot dry well up there. And what Dave and Craig and John O'Brien asked me to do is expose it all, and I did. And they came up, and the town engineer checked it out. Then we had a couple other engineers check it out, and it's a working system, and it's well sufficient for a 300 square foot building. So the reason it doesn't meet the setbacks is because the gentleman that I bought it from owned the Grubbies. They owned like 4 acres in there, and they subdivided it. They didn't subdivide it. They gave it to their kids. They gave, each one of their 4, I think their 2 daughters and son each got a lot, and ended up this one. And then they sold the other ones. But I'm asking for a variance from the town board so I can just use the existing system.
Well, on paper, Tom, It looks like a very uncomfortable situation. You've got 1/10 of an acre.
Yeah.
And you've got one dry well. I don't know if it has stone around it or not. How long has that system been in place?
Since I think he told me it was put in 1988 or 89.
So
it's got 6 feet of stone. It's a 6-foot dry well, and it's got number 3 stone going around it about 2.5 feet. It's set up to hold about 80 to 90 gallons a day. You know, it's set up for, you know, it's only a studio that this is in.
What is the dry well supposed to be doing? What is its purpose?
The dry well?
Yeah.
Well, what it does is it goes from your septic tank. You know, your sewage goes into your septic tank. Then it comes out. Back in the earlier days, they used to. Today, all they use is what they call leach fields.
Well, I know that.
But a dry well that's what a dry well is. It's a 6-foot round, and you know what I mean? It acts just like a leach field. It's a leaching system, is what it is.
yes, and you're correct.
Oh,
But it's 30 years old.
yeah. What is your concern?
Well,
it don't work, or
well, it may not have much life left to it. Have you ever considered just a holding tank, Tom?
well, I didn't even know I needed anything. I didn't even know I needed. This is the first time I've ever bought a place and I had to get a permit that I had to show a septic system on any of my properties. I never ever had to do that.
Right.
Never.
Well, this is kind of unusual.
Well, I guess they passed a new law in Queensbury about being close to the lake. You gotta have you guys rezoned
Well,
it.
we haven't passed any new laws, but yeah, we do look at anything that's, you know, in the waterfront residential zone very carefully.
Yeah, it's 1,000 feet from the lake. I know it's waterfront.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on
It
it?
might be 1,000 feet from the lake, but my gosh, you have neighbors all over the place. And I've got to tell you, I am so uncomfortable with this application.
Okay.
You know, if you're not, well, if you would consider a holding tank, that would be better.
Yeah, I mean, you guys
I mean, honestly,
yeah.
there's something just terribly wrong with this picture. And I actually went up there this afternoon.
Oh, did you?
And again, the water running I mean, you have waterfront property right in front of you because that stream's running right there.
That's
So-
not a stream.
Well, it is right now,
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yeah.
you know, so, you know, really bad situation there. So unless,
I mean, what would you guys like? Let me ask you that. I
Holding
mean,
tank.
I'm open to do whatever.
Well, let me
you guys-
ask you something that would be a win-win for all of us. Where is the parking there?
Well, what the parking is, it's funny how that parcel goes because the Warren County, when they built that road, the road goes about 6 feet off the edge of the building. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's
Right.
funny because all that parking lot is the county, but you know, if you guys would like a holding tank, it's not a big deal.
Well,
You know,
it's just one of those things. You're right on the edge, Tom.
you are.
We could have the town engineers review it,
Yeah.
or we can avoid all that. If you're willing to put a holding tank, I think, you know, speaking for myself, and I'll let the others speak to it.
Yeah.
I'd be really comfortable there.
Okay. I mean,
And
you
not only
guys-
that,
yeah.
but if you
guys-
got an H20 rating for the cap, you could use it for a parking area.
Yeah, well, I could put it, you know, I can do whatever you guys want.
Yeah.
And you guys are the last stop. I mean, you guys are the ones that are gonna say, if you guys want a holding tank, I'll do a holding tank. If you guys want me to have a septic tank, I'll have a septic tank. I'll do what you guys want, and I wanna do what's correct for the town of Queensbury. You know,
Yeah,
I
well,
can throw a couple holding tanks in there in half a day.
no, that's refreshing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom.
No, I mean, I didn't wanna do that, but.
Yeah.
I mean, if it.
All right, well, let's see how the
or
rest of the board
feels that
members
way,
feel.
I'll do holding things. I just was hoping that I wouldn't have to, you know, because when I was talking to, you know, John, Dave, and Craig, you know,
Yeah.
I was like this. I said, you know, how do you feel on this? You know, and they were up front with me. They're a great group of guys.
Yeah,
And
they
I said,
are.
you know, I don't want to have to come back. You know, if you guys want holding tanks, you know, I'd rather have you say, okay, hey, let's do, you know, put in 3,000-4,000 gallons of holding tanks, or do what you'd like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I don't want to I don't want to put them in the parking lot. I'd like to, you know, if you want.
Well, whatever you
Yeah,
want.
I got a 500-gallon propane tank I put in. Did you guys see it? The cab, the green thing.
No,
I
but
did not notice
Did
that.
any of you see a green cover there? You know, I could take and put right in there. I could put a bunch of holding tanks in. That's what, you know, you guys prefer.
all right, well, the options are, we can have a town engineer review them.
Yeah.
You can approve it like it is. Or Tom's willing to go to a holding tank and we'll just ask Tom Jarrett to draw it up and,
Yeah, I mean, if you
Or
guys
whatever.
approve, are you guys against the system that's there now? Or no?
I've seen better, Tom.
Yeah, no, I mean, I seen better too, but you know what I'm saying? You know, what it is what it is. It was there before I got there.
Well, with the holding tank, Tom, we know where it is.
Yeah.
We know where it's not going.
Okay.
And given the small lot that you have, it's not going to affect your well or your neighbor's
Yeah,
wells.
no,
I
hey,
mean,
if you want it, I'll do it.
Okay.
Believe me, I'm easy. I didn't come here I want to do what you guys want.
all right, well, let's see what they want.
Yeah.
Even with the holding tank, there's still 4 variances required, is that correct?
There might be, but a holding tank, it's there. It's not seeping out anywhere.
Right.
And it might still need variances, yes. So you're working with Tom Jarrett?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just, you know, Craig and them guys have been helpful too. So
Yeah.
I'd like not to have to wait. But,
So the dry well that's here in this resolution is the dry well for the septic. It's not for
That is
storm
correct.
water or anything else.
no, that's for the seven. Yeah.
All right.
This, you gotta remember, this place was built back, you know, many years ago.
Are you parking in the front area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, it's still county right away, or is that,
That's county right away.
Yeah. I parking's tight. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
if you can make it work, you're still off the road. I have no issues with that.
Well,
Oh,
see,
yeah.
you can't park over a dry well, but you could park over with
Yeah, you can park, you can, you know, I can, yeah. You know, we don't wanna we can park right on the county, we can park right out front, I can park probably 20 cars.
All
Oh,
right.
God, no. Are you
No.
kidding me?
No, I say, I have the room to. Now, where I'm putting the holding tanks, that's,
Yeah.
they'll go right where, I'll dig up the septic tank and the dry well, take them right out and throw the tanks in there if you don't wanna approve what's there.
As regards to the property transfer law that we're working on, how
Yeah.
does this?
Well,
come
this
into
would
play?
fail, most likely.
This would fail.
So he would have to do something, and holding tanks are probably the only solution. Certainly not gonna get a rescue system in there, because
You got a tenth of an acre.
there's water everywhere. It would not work. I mean, literally a stream running through there today, and granted, it was sunny, so I get that there's more water than maybe normal, but there's still a lot of water there, so you have to think about that.
Yeah, but that ain't where the dry well is.
I know, but you know, you have to think of seepage, and you're heading all towards the lake, and then you have all your neighbors below you, all those red houses on the one side. You know, if that stuff starts flowing,
Yeah.
it's gonna go right into their water source.
No, I have no problem with holding tanks.
Thoughts on this side?
I would say that, you know, the 5 years I spent on the planning board, when opportunities presented themselves like this, we always look to see the septic and that be corrected. So, I mean, if he's willing to put in a holding tank, I think that would be the best option, you know, for the property, considering what I read here.
Yeah.
The only thing I would want to make sure is that, say to him, all right, go ahead, do the holding tanks, but what are the additional variances? I don't want him to go through the process of
It's
the
gonna be
holding
based on,
tanks.
it's gonna be based on where the tanks go, though, I think, is where the variances will come from.
Usually neighbors are more comfortable with that. Well, usually, and there is a neighbor that's not real happy with this.
No.
Usually that is one of the indicators to me whether something's fitting or it's not fitting, are the neighbors. And we have one neighbor and they're just kind of opposed to approving this format.
Right.
I don't think that neighbor would have a problem with a holding tank, but I don't want to speak for them, but by the sound of it. All right, Tom, yes.
Council has.
Council,
I think the board understands this, especially in light of the last two comments, but I just want to make sure it's clear that you're not considering approving a holding tank this evening.
Correct.
No,
We need a plan.
I just want to make sure.
Right.
No, you're right.
Just want to make sure.
I guess I need to stress too, we really need an engineered plan.
Right.
As opposed to just a holding tank.
Well, he's working with Tom Jarrett, so. Tom, let me see if there's any member of the public that wishes to speak to this. If there are, I'm gonna ask you to sit down for a minute.
No problem.
Is there any member of the public that would like to speak to this variance application this evening?
Absolutely.
Okay. Give me your name and address when you come
I'm
up.
Jack Celeste, I live at 83 Papa Mount, and I just have some forms for the board here to review. Pass those out. You know, I definitely think we need to go through the variance process, because there is evidence that he has relocated some of the boundary markers that were up on our property, which on page 2 there, you'll see is a law that Governor Pataki put into place. And it's a simple penalties for moving property.
Yeah, but that's,
So once he does, I understand that, so my point is, he needs to go through the variance with the proper stakes in the ground, not where he moves the stakes, and then that holding tank fits in that spot. So I would like to have my engineers review where that holding tank is going and all the setbacks from my property.
well, here's what's likely to happen. If Tom can get his engineer, which at the moment is Tom Jarrett Engineering, to draw up another plan with a holding tank and setbacks and what variances it might require, our next meeting will set a public hearing.
Okay.
Which would be the following meeting. So
Fine.
approximately a month from now, we would be looking at approving or not this application. But if the boundary lines are correct and there's a holding tank being requested, how do you feel about that?
As long as the boundaries are correct.
Okay. Anything else, Jack?
Nope, that's good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public like to speak to this variance application? Seeing none, I'll leave the public hearing open as we go through this process. Or should we close it for this because we're gonna be dealing with another arrangement?
Well, we're not sure we're going to be dealing with another arrangement. It sounds likely. But you can leave the public hearing open pending to see whether we receive a revised application or not. Or you can close the public hearing and not make a decision yet. Or you could, close the public hearing and make a decision on that.
I'll leave the public hearing open and we'll see if the new application is, and then I'll close the public hearing to this one and reopen that one.
That's fine.
Okay. Okay. Is the board comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay. No action on this then, Tom. We'll see what you and your engineers come up with, and you listened to Jack Celeste. He wants to make sure those property lines are where they're supposed to be. Okay?
Property just surveyed 2 days ago.
All right,
And
okay.
Steve's, so.
Oh, well, you can't get much better than that.
No, you can't.
Okay,
Okay, well, thank you very much.
so thank you, Tom.
So when can I like, if I get this to the town tomorrow?
If you get this to the town in the next week or 2 weeks, week and a half, let's say, give us a little time to get the resolution together. We'll set the public hearing at our next meeting for the following meeting.
Okay.
So before the ground thaws out,
Yeah.
hopefully you can get this
Okay,
set,
so
or
Craig-
just after it thaws
Craig,
out.
you guys have like a minimum and a maximum you want? Is that something that Craig and Dave would do, or?
Well, they'll always be of help to you, Tom. So,
Okay.
okay?
Okay, well, thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you. All right, that's it for the Board of Health hearing. There's nothing else in the agenda for the Board of Health, so do I hear a motion to leave the Board of Health?
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Councilman Ferone, seconded by Councilman Medevere. Those in favor of leaving the Board of Health, say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. We're now out of the Board of Health. All right, the next segment, we have 11 resolutions, or actually 10. We removed one because I didn't get around to it. I'm going to describe and explain each resolution briefly. There is an agenda up here on the table. You're welcome to come up and get one. And then I'll give the public an opportunity to speak to the resolutions. And there is a resolution before us tonight that deals with dog control. And if you're one of those that already spoke to that, that's fine. We appreciate your thoughts. But if someone has new information, they're certainly welcome to bring it forward. We just would rather hear the new rather than the old over again. All right, so I'm going to go through the resolutions. Rose is going to help me with that. Rose, 3-1.
It's a resolution rejecting bid for sale of obsolete backhoe and authorizing its sale with auction companies, gov deals.
All right, well, we have a Firmex 760 backhoe, 1999, that we were going to trade in for, I think we were going to get $15,000 or $16,000 on a trade-in. Well, we were assured by a couple of people that it's worth $20,000, and one individual said he'd pay $20,000 for it, so we withdrew it. Then we put it out to bid. We only got one bid from John Kloss of Gamberts in New York for $6,701. Well, we were assured we can do better than that. So we're going to put it back out to bid again with a minimum of $16,000. Resolution 3.2.
It's a resolution authorizing comprehensive telecommunication services contract with First Light Fiber.
All right, this is part of our infrastructure upgrade that we approved at the last meeting. We're going to be going to the cloud for most of our hosting, and we need to increase our internet speed, something we needed to do anyways, but this is absolutely must. From 30 times 30 to 100 times 100 megabytes per second connection, and it will be a monthly charge of $891, whereas the 30 by 30 connection was $650, so it's going to be a bit more. It has much more capacity and much more speed. Resolution 3.3.
It's a resolution authorizing storage of cots owned by Warren County at Town of Queensbury Storage Building located on Sunnyside Road, Queensbury.
Well, we have the storage in the old firehouse on Sunnyside Road. Plus, Warren County likes the fact that the Town of Queensbury has a comprehensive emergency management plan. And the new members of this team are going to have an opportunity to become part of that when we do another dry run to make sure that we stay up to snuff and can respond to emergencies in a correct manner. This is to store 12 cots on Sunnyside Road. And the county cots, and they'll be used for emergency situations. Resolution 3.4.
Resolution authorizing permit to Victoria and Ken Giordano for temporary parking of travel trailer on site during construction of new residence.
All right, Victoria and Ken Giordano, they bought a lot titled 119 Sealy Road. They're going to put a new house up. They live in Nassau County, and they want to start construction of the new house in April. And they'd like to put a travel trailer on site during the construction so they can keep track of the construction and do some of it themselves and come up here from Nassau County. They just want to put a travel trailer on site. They're going to put a holding tank on site. So they can't do that because it's called a mobile home unless this town board approves that. And it's only a 1 year. This permission to put this travel trailer on the site would terminate on March 19th of 2019. Resolution 3.4.
3.5.
3.5.
Resolution authorizing agreement between the Town of Queensbury and Economic Development Corporation, Warren County.
Okay, this is the annual. I don't think it's increased in years and years and years. 114,000. for the EDC. We used to have our own EDC, and that was costing us $150, and that was years and years ago. So this is an outsourcing that saved money. The EDC serves as our first point of contact for our town for economic development, related purposes and services. They encourage the development and retention of industry within the town. They promote expansion and diversity in the commercial and industrial tax base within the town. They attract new industry to the town and assist such industry in finding appropriate sites and or buildings together, assisting with any economic incentives being offered, either local, county, regional, state, or federal. They encourage utilization of local contractors and suppliers with expansions and new projects within the community. They work with the town and regional planners and key stakeholders to maximize the efficiency and effectiveness of economic development in the town. They provide to the town regarding the best means of encouraging growth of business in the town, including expansion of existing industries and attracting new firms to the town. They share information to the business community in the town by exchanging information and technology for mutual benefit through a variety of methods: websites, social media, workshop, conferences. They prepare, furnish, and provide information to federal, state, and local authorities regarding the positive assets of the town and the region, the needs of the local business community, and act as a liaison between the various levels of government and local business community. And they continue to work toward the following goals: relieve and reduce unemployment and underemployment, promote additional employment with additional job opportunities, identify and promote training and workforce development programs for individuals and businesses by aligning workforce development efforts to match skill needs of area businesses and industries. They undertake appropriate economic development research for the purpose of aiding the community or the area, encourage the development or retention of industry in the town, and in fact lessening the financial burdens of taxpayers and government. And it goes on. They do many other things that are very beneficial to the town. They do meet quarterly with the town board and explain updates and take questions and exchange information, and whatever the board desires, they readily take care of those things. So that's resolution 3.5. Resolution 3.6.
The resolution to amend 2018 budget.
Okay, moving money over. More salts needed by the highway department. Resolution 3.7.
It's a resolution authorizing agreement between the town of Queensbury and Evolution Recycling, Inc. for computer and electronics recycling services.
All right, Evolution Recycling, they didn't win the last bid. They weren't very much higher than the low bidder. But what happened with the low bidder, ERI, it's a national outfit, and they expected the town to do everything. Well, we don't have those kind of resources like forklifts and storage facilities where we keep our e-waste in. Evolution Recycling, which won this latest round, they take care of everything for us. We give them a call when we're near full in one of our sheds. We have 2 sheds that take care of the town of Queensbury and the city of Glens Falls, one on Luzerne Road and one on Ridge Road. And so hooray. This is a resolution approving the agreement with Evolution Recycling to help take this care of our electronic waste. Resolution 3.8 was pulled. Resolution 3.9.
It's a resolution approving audit of bills warrant of March 20th, 2018.
Okay. This is a warrant with a run date of March 15th and payment date of March 20th, totaling $864,182.49. And the bills can't be paid until this town board approves them. Resolution 3.10.
This is a resolution authorizing engagement of SPCA of Upstate New York, Inc. for provision of dog control services within the town of Queensbury.
All right, and this is a resolution for the board to consider. We're looking for dog control services. We had an RFP go out. We had 2 proposals come in. Very different proposals. SPCA of Upstate New York said that they could do it for around $60,000 or $65,000, a total of $65,000. and the other from Warren County SPCA, which is much higher for the same service. Resolution 311.
It's a resolution authorizing agreement between the town of Queensbury and Glens Falls Animal Hospital.
All right, this is renewing our agreement with Glens Falls Animal Hospital. They take care of the dogs that whoever we contract with brings to them. And it has a fee schedule attached to it. And so in the past, the town of Queensbury has contracted with Glens Falls Animal Hospital for the animal hospital's boarding of animals as necessary, euthanasia and cremation services. And the town is paid for services provided by the animal hospital in accordance with the schedule of fees established by the animal hospital. And whereas the town of Queensbury wishes to enter into a written agreement with the animal hospital for the animal hospital's boarding of animals and as necessary, euthanasia and cremation services. And whereas the town of Queensbury will exhaust all avenues to place healthy animals with foster families or forever homes, work directly with 501c3 rescue groups and SPCAs, and make every effort to avoid euthanasia and only select euthanasia as last resort. And so this is the contract with the Glens Falls Animal Hospital for those kind of services. All right, and those are the 10 resolutions before us. Resolution 3A was pulled because I just didn't get together with the superintendent of our transfer stations and solid waste, that being Rich Paris. Our schedules, we're going to get together tomorrow afternoon and propose a fee schedule, which I'll share with the board and explain it to the board. And if the board wants any input before the next meeting, where we'll have that fee schedule back before them, they're certainly willing, can ask all the questions they need. All right, so we have 10 resolutions before us. And again, you're welcome to speak to any of the resolutions, but if you have another town topic that's not related to the resolutions, I'll give you the opportunity to speak to that town topic at the end of the meeting. But this part of the meeting is just to the resolutions, okay? And when you come up, please give your name and address and tell us what your thoughts are. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Ron Ball, for the record, Queensbury. 3.1. Back last year sometime, I believe around October or something like that, I heard that they were going to put the backhoe, they were going to trade this backhoe in on a new backhoe. And when I heard that the offer for that backhoe was $15,000, I said that I came here to the meeting and said they're giving you way too little. It's worth a lot more than that. It's worth at least $20,000, I said. And so I went on to prove my point. And well, speaking of it, I says, I'll offer you. They had to offer $15,000 to this company that they got the new backhoe from. I said, I'll offer you $16,000 for it right then and there. I would pay $16,000. But we couldn't go that route. They had to put it out for auction after they determined, well, maybe we could get more for it. But what hurt the sale of it was John called it a piece of junk. And so he didn't just call it a piece of junk once, he called it a piece of junk twice. After I said I'd give $16,000 for it. So when he said that, I'm thinking, wow, maybe this is a piece of junk. And maybe it isn't worth anything. And so to prove my point, they didn't get any offers on it. Everybody in the was listening to this broadcast on TV and here heard John call it a piece of junk, and that's why it never got bid. And I'm going to repeat it again, it's a piece of junk, because I don't think you're going to get anything for it, all because thank John for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Travis Whitehead, Ward 4. Resolution 3.1, the reason that tractor was not sold to that dealer was because it would have been illegal to do so. It was certainly legal to purchase the new tractor because it was a OGS type bid. But without a competitive bid, and actually you got a competitive bid that night for Mr. Ball, it would have been illegal for you to go ahead and transfer that tractor. And I also agree that you didn't do yourself any favors by calling it a piece of junk. So if you don't get the money that you hope to get, and you may not, it's only because the legal way to do it is to put it out for bid. And you didn't take the second bid that you had that night. Okay, Resolution 3.10, SPCA. When buying apples, it's a good thing to get a second quote. And when one quote is less than half the other, you're probably either going to get a very good deal or you're really comparing apples to oranges. And such seems to be the case here. Two very different products, or the included contractual services are quite different. I think that's what it amounts to. It's good that you have the concern for the dollars. I agree. But when you bought the legal services, why earlier this year, why did you pay $60,000 to $100,000 more for Mr. Shackner's services when just a month or two beforehand we had testimony here that the services of the previous council had no fault? They were doing a good job. If you can get something, the same thing, for less, you should. Issue number 3, Resolution 3.5. I don't know why the town should be paying $114,000 to the EDC. We are the only town that does so in Warren County. Warren County pays EDC $349,000 a year. As a Queensbury resident, all Queensbury residents in total pay their share of that $349,000, which is about $150,000 coming from Queensbury taxpayers for the EDC. Why would you pay another $114,000? I don't know. But if you're looking for a place to put another $114,000, you might want to listen to the proposals from SPCA. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jonathan Shaw, 636 Plank Road, Clifton Park, and counsel to the Warren County SPCA. Did everyone receive a copy of the correspondence that I sent to Mr. Hafner today? I've circulated. If anybody, I have a separate copy. If anybody would like one. As I set forth in that letter, some research over the weekend and after reviewing the audio recordings of the special workshop session from last week, where representatives of Upstate SPCA were speaking to the town board, it's become clear to me that Section 77.5 of the Rules and Regulations of the Department of Agriculture and Markets prohibit a municipality from entering into a contract for dog control services with any entity, even a nonprofit, if that entity is in the business of buying, selling, leasing, or otherwise dealing in dogs as a, quote, a business enterprise. I'd submit, based upon the statements made by the representatives of Upstate, wherein they travel to the south in their van, and over the last 3 years have picked up approximately 2,608 dogs, adopted out 2,632 dogs, that Upstate is in fact a dog dealer, as that term is defined by the Agriculture and Markets Department. This is markedly different than the Warren County SPCA, who, pursuant to its contractual obligations with various municipalities, last year in 2017 brought in 47 dogs, 43 of which were ultimately rehomed. Warren County SPCA transfers the bulk of the dogs that come into its custody through animal cruelty investigations, seizures, and whatnot to other nonprofit rescues that deal with the disposal of the dogs. Warren County does not do that. It's not part of its business model. It's clearly a dog control and humane law enforcement entity, whereas Upstate clearly is in the business of adopting out dogs. Currently, they're doing it for $390 a piece. And from various screenshots of their website, they're doing it through their shelter. They're doing it through petfinder.com. They also run a adoption clinic through a PetSmart down in Saratoga Springs, where they continuously adopt out animals. So I think that in this case, and I provided copies of the statute as well as the official dog control municipal shelter guide from the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets to you, which also references that statute not permitting a organization such as Upstate from being legally allowed to enter into a contract. I don't believe that the town can legally enter into this contract, should it decide to do so. However, due to this, I have had discussions with my client, understanding we do have an existing contract in place up until the end of the month. That contract does automatically renew with the town's option for an additional year. And even though the town has not exercised that option as of yet, my client would be willing to enter in and extend that contract for the 1 year at the stated contract price of the $145 and change, which is less than the RFP amount that we submitted for those particular proposals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name is Tom Ross. I've been a Queensbury resident for 43 years. I've been a CPA in Queensbury for 43 years. I'm a past president of the Adirondack Regional Chamber of Commerce. I'm a past president of the Adirondack Community College Foundation. I'm a past president of Glens Falls Hospital Foundation. And I'm a past president for 5 years of cerebral palsy. I want to say right up front that I absolutely respect Mr. Whitehead. And most of the time I agree with him. And I think he does a wonderful job for the citizens of Queensbury. But I believe when it comes to the EDC, he is totally wrong. And I will tell you that is serving on all those boards for all those years. And in total, it's 31 boards. I was a past member of the Queensbury Economic Development Corporation under Fran Walter. The EDC, as I understand it, and just to be independent, for the last 5 years before I retired, we did the audit of the EDC, my firm, Ross, Rigby, and Patton. Before that, Loftus and Ross. The EDC performs a service that nobody in this area ever gives respect to. The staff, including my former employee, Jennifer Switzer, is wonderful. Ed Bartholomew, he doesn't get paid enough. I think the problem, from my past experience, is that the other towns don't feel they get enough service from the EDC. I can assure you Queensbury does. I'm not on their board, I don't go to their meetings, but I have the utmost respect for that organization. I think we're very lucky to have it, and I don't think there's any way the town of Queensbury could have an economic development corporation representing it for $114,000 a year, or for the 300+ thousand from Warren County. What goes into that kind of an organization is very capital intensive. They've had some great successes. I think they're on the verge of having a few more from what I hear, and I would urge you to pass the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, Brent McDevitt. I am president of the Warren County SPCA. I am going to be short, as I know the board has, via the last meeting, and I know through some community outreach received a lot of opinions and a lot of emotional viewpoints on this issue. So I'm going to save the board all of that. What I'm going to talk about is a very specific issue which Mr. Shop just covered. And that is New York Code of Rules and Regulations 77.5. That is the issue that's before this board. The issue is very, very black and white as it relates to upstate SPCA's ability, or inability for that matter, to enter into this contract due to the fact of the specific definition of dog dealer, separating apart from the common definition of pet dealer. 2,600 dogs in a 3-year period classifies upstate as a dog dealer. That issue is crystallized under code. So what I would hope is that the board is cognizant of this fact, is reflective of this fact, and looks at this very, very closely through town council. And that the last thing I or we as an organization, as a board, want to do is to force this issue if we believe the town errs in its decision here this evening. So we hope that via some reflection, via some written correspondence which we've put out there, that if nothing else, the town, based upon this being discovered today, would tap the brakes, would pull this, or it's too late for that, would table this for future discussion in an effort for all concerned to get their arms around this matter. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to any of the resolutions before us this evening? Seeing none. Thoughts on behalf of the board?
Minimally, I'd like to just see 310, pulled from the other resolutions as a separate item for vote.
Yes, sir. So 310 for roll call and 352, Jennifer?
I need to, yes, abstain from 3.5. And does council have any direction for us in regards to the letter that we received today from Mr. Shop?
I guess I wouldn't say direction. I can share with you our preliminary reaction to it. There's one factual question that we don't know the answer to, the board may or may not, but the regulation seems to say what, what the Warren County SPCA attorney says it says. We don't dispute that. What we don't see is where there's a distinction based on the volume of transactions. So I'm paraphrasing, I'm not pretending to quote the gentleman directly, but paraphrasing and understanding what he and the representative from Warren County SPCA are saying. They seem to be saying that if a certain large number of dogs, in excess of 2,000 over a certain period, are adopted out, that they say clearly, no gray area, crystal clear, black, white, plain and simple, makes that entity a dog dealer, but that the adopting out of approximately 40 dogs makes their organization not a dog dealer. We're not seeing where the regulation, which does have fairly straightforward language, we're not seeing where the regulation makes a distinction as to the volume. So our preliminary thought is, if the contention is correct, that an organization like this that adopts out dogs for a fee is not eligible to serve or to serve as our contractual partner in this service, we're not seeing necessarily why one organization would qualify where the other would not. That's a preliminary thought. The fact that we're not aware of, you all may be or may not be, is whether Upstate purchases dogs. We're not aware of Upstate. No one has told us that Upstate purchases dogs. We haven't heard Warren County SPCA make a contention that Upstate purchases dogs. And if Upstate doesn't purchase, I'm not sure that would be definitive even if they did. But again, our preliminary reaction to it is the regulation does seem to say what it says. Interestingly enough, the guide document to which Warren County SPCA has directed all of our attention has two provisions that are separated only by a not relevant sentence. And the two provisions say, in lieu of or in addition to appointment of a dog control officer, the same municipalities may contract with any duly incorporated SPCA, Humane Society, or similar animal protective association. Then there's a sentence that has, I promise you, has absolutely nothing to do with these issues at all. And then the next sentence says, the next two sentences, I apologize, say dog control services cannot be provided by a dog dealer. And this is I think you heard this or at least read this, a dog dealer is defined as any person that buys, sells, leases, or otherwise deals in dogs. That's a quote from the Ag and Markets guideline document, not from a law, not from a regulation. But that language is very broad, or otherwise deals in dogs. The regulation itself makes no distinction about volume. The guideline document makes no distinction about volume. So again, our preliminary reaction is we're not understanding how one of the organizations would be clearly black, white, crystal clear, no gray area, not eligible, and the other would be clearly crystal clear, black, white, eligible. That's where we're not understanding the reasoning.
So we could still vote on this resolution, but, and I assume you have further legal research to do?
Well, actually, we did have time to look into this, and we're not finding a lot of guidance by way of legal research.
Okay.
However, having said that, remember that you've only heard from counsel for one of the parties. We felt it was appropriate, I can't imagine anybody would feel otherwise, to give the other party the opportunity for its counsel to weigh in on this issue. I think you all know we did forward the Warren County Attorney's letter, Warren County SPCA letter to Fitzgerald Morris Baker Firth, which represents Upstate, and gave them the opportunity to weigh in on this issue. This all happened today, not a criticism of anybody, including Warren County SPCA. They gave us the stuff today. We forwarded it today. We've not heard any response. I mean, it seems like the board might want to hear what the other organizations' counsel has to say about the issue. But from our perspective, again, we think we understand the principles involved. We're not seeing where the regulation makes any distinction as to the amount of traffic, if you will, the volume, and we're not seeing where the guideline document does either.
All right, so let's say, just for example, we voted in favor of this resolution to go with SPCA of Upstate New York. And, okay, if everything looks legal, we're fine. But wonder if something was illegal, then we'd have to come up with another plan, right?
Basically.
Yeah, okay.
Do you think, in your professional opinion, that if this was an issue, Glens Falls would have had to deal with it before now?
The city?
Yeah. They have contracted with the SPCA of Upstate New York for over 15 years. So if it was a true issue, don't you think somebody or some entity would have come forward and said, hey, you guys are breaking the law?
I haven't the faintest idea. No disrespect to sister municipalities or any other municipality. I haven't the faintest idea. I would not, let me say this, as town council, I would not sit here and say, because this same arrangement has been pursued elsewhere without challenge, that means it's legal. I would not take that position. I haven't the faintest idea.
But, I'm sorry, Tony. There is no roadblock or red flag at this point in time that you're aware of.
Well, I'm not sure how the board feels about this. The roadblock or red flag is that it seems pretty clear from the letter we received that Warren County SPCA may contemplate legally challenging the decision if you award the contract to Upstate. So be it. And they have the right, clearly they have the right to do that. The red flag / roadblock, I'm not sure if I'm answering the supervisor's question. I apologize if I'm not. The red flag or potential roadblock is the contention that it's illegal to enter into a contract with Upstate because it's a dog dealer. Again, from our perspective, we think we understand that contention. What we don't understand is how that reasoning would apply to Upstate, or how or why that reasoning would apply to Upstate, but not Warren County SPCA, because there doesn't seem to be a distinction in the applicable regulation or the guideline document from Ag and Markets about the volume. The inference, the implication seems to be, actually it's not just an implication, it's been stated, that because Upstate does so many adoptions, that therefore it's clearly a dog dealer, and the operative phrase is as a business enterprise. That's one of the phrases in the regulation, but that because Warren County SPCA adopts far fewer dogs and also for less amount of money, but not no money, less amount of money, that it is not a dog dealer as a business enterprise. We don't know what the basis for that distinction is because the law, the applicable regulation doesn't seem to make that distinction.
But SPCA of Upstate New York is obviously a humane society.
Oh yeah, presumably both fit that language.
Yeah.
Presumably both. We haven't seen the 501c3, the actual proof of any of that. We're not aware of anybody contending that they're not, that either organization is not of that sort. But as far as we know, both organizations fit the phrase may contract with any duly incorporated SPCA, Humane Society, or similar animal protective association. So again, to point out the contrast, the guideline document says, the important words are, municipalities may contract with any duly incorporated SPCA, Humane Society, or similar animal protective association. Irrelevant sentence, dog control services cannot be provided by a dog dealer. A dog dealer is defined as any person that buys, sells, leases, or otherwise deals in dogs. The Warren County position, as we understand it, is that Upstate is a dog dealer engaged in that as a business enterprise, but Warren County SPCA is not a dog dealer engaged in that as a business enterprise. And the reason for the distinction, allegedly, as we understand it, is the volume, the amount of dogs that are adopted. What we're saying is it would be very easy for the legislature or the Department of Agriculture and Markets to write in a volume-based distinction. If you deal in more than X, then you're a dog dealer. If you don't, you're not a dog dealer. That doesn't appear in the regulation or the guideline document.
So what I'm saying is there anything that you as a legal counsel would put forward recommending that we don't deal with this? Or you think it's okay right now, based on what we know and don't know, for us to proceed forward with this particular resolution as of right now?
From the standpoint of us as town council, if you want to proceed, you can, but there are at least two additional sources of information we could, in theory, get more information from. One would be Upstate's council, and the other would be the Department of Agriculture and Markets. It's possible that we or one of the bidders, if you will, could seek an opinion from the Department of Agriculture and Markets.
So we could proceed, and then if it turned out there was something legally in error, it would just unravel.
That would be the result. Presumably, if there was a legal problem, it would unravel in some fashion.
Okay.
Besides volume, so a dog dealer is somebody who buys and sells, yeah?
Well, what it says is buys, sells, leases, or otherwise deals in dogs. I deal with a dog. I deal in a dog every single day. 125 pounds worth. You deal in dog every single day, nearing that, right? Mm-hmm. Getting there. It's very, very broad language.
Yeah.
It's not language that I would ever suggest be written into a law or regulation, but the language is what the language is.
Because I think I understand that the Upstate SPCA gets the dogs from a kill shelter and doesn't pay for them. And then the $390 is for the services that they provide, in vaccinations, the deworming, all those things, and that covers their expenses on that, and they don't make a profit from it. But
right.
You have this otherwise.
It's a not-for-profit. My understanding is it's a not-for-profit organization. My understanding is both are.
Right.
So one interpretation of, remember, the last words of the regulatory definition are as a business enterprise. It seems to us that some will take the position that by dealing with so many dogs, Upstate is doing so as a business enterprise. Upstate will would presumably tell us that it's not for profit, they're not making money, they're not doing it as a business enterprise. Warren County SPCA is already telling us that they're not doing it as a business enterprise. What we're saying is we're not seeing the distinction, other than as to volume, and there's nothing in the regulation or the guideline document that speaks to a distinction based on volume.
If I may address that point, I don't want to turn this into a debate, because this is not public privilege.
No, sir. Sir?
The distinction is not based on volume. It's based upon
Sir?
Upstate SPCA brings these animals up voluntarily Whereas Warren County,
Sir?
their animals come to them through contractual obligations.
You're out of order. We got a multi-page document for you. It will be reviewed, I assure you.
Just make sure.
All right.
Great.
And any other thoughts? Any other resolutions you'd like to have roll call on? I have right now resolutions 3.5 and 3.10 be roll call.
I'd like an opportunity to speak to it whenever you feel it's the time to.
Right now it's fine, Joe.
Okay. Well, talking about the resolution for 310. I received a lot of emails, text messages, phone calls about this SPA contract, and probably more on this subject than any other subject I've had to deal with since I've been on the board for 4 months. We all know that pet owners can be very passionate when it comes to their pets, their dogs, their cats, etc. In an article on Fox Business in July 2017, it found that Americans are pet obsessed and have spent $69 billion a year on their pets and pet products. It also went on to say that today 68% of U.S. households own a pet, which equates to roughly $84.6 million 6 million homes. So from the beginning, I had concerns with SPCA of Upstate New York. I asked a few times about their resources. Who do they have dedicated to the door control? Ms. Cloutier indicated she had 5 people who were certified or whatever in door control. But it seems that when she explained her operation, these people have dual responsibilities. It sounded like they're involved in the administration of her operations, the adoption program, and other responsibilities. So as the volume of our calls, I believe, is going to increase her needs, I didn't see how they were going to handle that. Again, the town of Queensbury is much larger than the city, both in size and population. I indicated that earlier. If at any time Ms. Cloutier indicated she'd be adding staff to her services provided to the town, if it exceeded her estimates, it would have put my mind at ease. I gave her plenty of opportunity to do that, but she never made that indication, which tells me that I believe she might be underestimating what the requirements are of the town. We've heard that Warren County SPCA has, coverage from Monday through Saturday for elongated hours. Yet we've heard that SPCA of Upstate only has an 800 number. And this is where another concern of mine, it's not clear to me as to who gets the 800 number, who's going to be able to call out the SPCA. We talked about whether the sheriff was going to have that capability. I don't think that was made clear. What constitutes an emergency call for the additional charges if it's after hours? And who gets to make that call? It just seems to be a lot of open issues on the service level and the expectations we have of SPCA of Upstate if we went with that contract. And I think there should be a defined scope of what that's going to be before we move forward. I know that there's over $100,000 difference in the 2 RFPs, and I think it would be great if we could save the town that money. But I'm not sure if that organization has the experience with the town to be able to reliably bid correctly for the level of service we're looking for. We had 18 people come forward during the public comment period on March 5th at the town board meeting. I think a total of 17 of those 18 people supported Warren County SPCA. As I said earlier, I received dozens of emails, most of which were supportive of Warren County SPCA. I was contacted by a number of law enforcement personnel supporting Warren County. And I have great respect for law enforcement. I consider their insight valuable. Additionally, I know we all received a document here that had over 138 signatures requesting that the town maintain Warren County SPCA. So I question, can all of these people be wrong and we be right in making this decision for Upstate? Additionally, since we look to support intermunicipal cooperation whenever possible, and in that Warren County SPCA is contracted service for Warren County and other Warren County municipalities, that we would want to negate that relationship. The other thing is, from a contingency perspective, what's our fallback? What if the new SPCA doesn't meet our expectations? Well, we have an opt-out option from the contract for non-performance, it leaves me to ponder if there are no other services to fall back on, is this truly an optional safeguard for poor performance? So as we move ahead with a roll call vote, I mean, taking all this into consideration, I plan to vote against Resolution 310. And I would ask you to, again, with additional information from Mr. Schaaf and the attorney, to pull this in and hold off for additional information.
I too had concerns, but my concerns weren't necessarily with Upstate. My concerns were more with Warren County SPCA, and actually from the beginning, from the very beginning of this whole process. In 2015, the town had animal control in-house, and the total expenditures in 2015 were $61,236. We entered into an agreement in 2016, into a contract, and that contract, our expenses increased 56%. It went from $61,236 to $140,000. So right there, I began to question why there's such a discrepancy from one year to the next for the same type of services. And as far as value, I know there were some issues that were brought up in value. Some of the things that I had looked at were some of the specific contracts that Warren County SPCA has with some of the other towns in Warren County. The towns of Lake George, Bolton, and Lake Luzerne contract for $7,500 annually. The towns have approximate populations of 3,515, 2,325, and 3,350. And the per capita charge for services to each town is $2.13, $3.22, and $2.24 respectively. In addition, Clifton Park, a population of $36,705, has an in-house dog control officer. They spend $107,036 for a $2.91 per capita charge. As far as Upstate being able to handle the number of calls, one of the other things that I looked at, I pulled the call logs from the period of, I believe it's January through April of 2017, and from the period of December 2017 through February 2018. And on average, in that period in 2017, there was only 21 calls that required a response from Warren County SPCA. In 2018, there was only an average of 15 during that 3-month period. So as far as Upstate being able to handle those calls, I don't think that that will be an issue based upon the call logs that come directly from Warren County SPCA. And in fact, the long history and the time that they've spent with the city of Glens Falls, the contract that they've had for, I think it's over 15 years with no issues. And I do appreciate people being passionate about it. I myself have pets, but it should be disclosed that all of the signatures that we received, of the 138, only 43 of these were Queensbury residents. So while I do appreciate the larger community wanting to make sure that Warren County SPCA keeps their contract, I'm looking out for the best interest of the constituents of the town of Queensbury. And I'm sorry, but I'm not here to look out for the constituents of the other communities in the area that may be concerned. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Anything on this side?
Yep. I just want everyone to know that this board has performed due diligence throughout this whole process. As the current contract with WC SPCA was up for renewal, as it is on a yearly basis, it seemed a good time to review. An RFP was sent out, 2 organizations responded, they were interviewed, and a decision was made. We tabled that decision temporarily while we investigated the comments made on March the 5th when the resolution came before this board. And we then held a workshop where SPCA of Upstate New York was provided an opportunity to have their say. Both organizations satisfy the RFP. Please keep in mind, we are only asking for a dog control officer as specified in our RFP and according to town code in New York State Ag and Markets. Prior to 2016, there was a single dog control officer being paid up to $44,000. This changed on March 21st, 2016, when Warren County SPCA was hired at a cost of $140,000. There was no RFP done at this time. I have researched but cannot determine why such an increase and why no RFP. The reason defined at the meeting in 2016, which I listened to, was that it would save the town money. And I'm afraid I can't figure that one out at all. RFPs are apparently at the discretion of the board when it is for a service, and I guess they decided to forego one at that time. Warren County SPCA, and then Jen has mentioned some of these figures, and I just want to emphasize that the emergency calls that for town of Lake George, Bolton, Lake Luzerne, the other services that Warren County, other towns that Warren County services, they charge them $100 for emergency calls, and they want to charge us $250 for an emergency call. Also, in the submission to the town of Queensbury, WCSPCA proposed a rate of $165,000 to cover the 27,900 residents, which is a rate of $5.91 per capita, and as opposed to $213, $322, $224 in other towns. I understand very well that this is an emotional topic. It's been very apparent that it is for many, but again, I believe this board has been fiscally responsible, practical, and thorough. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have much to add. I just wanted to emphasize Catherine's point that when this was being put together, out of Doug Irish's email and mouth, it was going to be a cost-saving measure to the town, and it has proven not to be. The other thing we deal with, and I've explained to the two people that called me about this issue, we cannot come to agreement with our EMS as far as contracts go, because we can't afford their services. And yet, when it comes to dogs, we should be paying $105,000 more, and to me that does not make any sense whatsoever. We have some serious issues. We have a tax cap we have to deal with, and I'll be damned if I'm going to worry about having to deal with the SPCA when we cannot come to grips with contracts with our EMS. There's no such thing as a volunteer organization anymore. Everybody has to get paid for it, and you should be in our shoes for just one day and have to deal with what we have to deal with, and I think you'd understand the position you put us in. So that's it.
Okay. All right, hearing no further discussions, let's do roll call on 3.5 first, which is a resolution authorizing the agreement between the town of Queensbury and Economic Development Corporation, Warren County. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Councilman Medevere. Is there seconded by Councilman Ferron? Roll call vote on 3.5, please, Rose.
Councilpersons Ferron?
Yes.
Switzer? Abstain. Stroud?
Yes.
Medevere?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Okay, resolution passes. Resolution 310. That's resolution authorizing engagement of SPCA of Upstate New York for provision of dog control services within the town of Queensbury. Is there a motion to approve that?
I'll move.
Moved by Councilwoman Switzer.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Medevere. A roll call vote on that, please, Rose.
Councilperson Switzer? Yes. Stroud?
Yes.
Medevere?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Ferron?
No.
Motion gets approved. Now the other resolutions, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.6, 3.7, and 3.9 and 3.11. Is there a motion to approve the rest of the resolutions?
Introduced.
Introduced by Councilman Medevere.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Atherton.
That's
Roll
Stroud.
call vote.
Before you take a vote, I have a suggestion about 311.
Yes.
311 makes reference to an enclosed agreement. The enclosed agreement has a blank in it on page 2 in paragraph 3, where in parentheses it says currently blank in reference to who the animal control officer is. I don't think that parentheses bracketed phrase needs to be in page 2 of that agreement. I'm suggesting it be removed.
Okay. All right, anybody putting forward a motion to approve the remaining resolutions also agrees to amending Resolution 311 in accord with...
It's not the resolution that I'm suggesting be amended, it's only the agreement. I just want to bring it to the board's attention. You don't have to make that part of the vote.
Okay.
I just want to make that recommendation to the board.
All right. Motion to approve the rest of the resolutions.
I'll introduce.
Introduced by Councilman Medevere. Seconded by Councilman
Councilman.
Yeah.
Roll call vote on the rest of the resolutions, please.
Councilperson Strauss.
Yes.
Medevere.
Yes.
Atherton.
Yes.
Perone.
Yes.
Switzer.
Yes.
All right, the other resolutions pass. Any correspondence?
No correspondence.
Okay, privilege of the floor to talk to the town board about any town matters. Yes, sir.
Travis Whitehead, Ward 4. In regards to the lack of a RFP back in 2016, when you agreed to $145,000, this is just another example of the kind of lackadaisical adherence to General Municipal Law 103 and 104 in this case. Even if you consider this a professional service and might have some exemptions under 104, you still need to do the RFP. You can choose who you want. Whether this is something that, as you indicated, might have been forced through by Mr. Irish or anybody else, I don't know. But I would hope that, you take this as a lesson that, following bidding rules is something that is not only good, it's the law. I hope your attorney goes ahead and reminds you of this when these things come up in the future. And, I hope it's lesson learned.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to the board about any town issues?
Hi, Jim Fitzgerald. Just want to correct something real quick. You're talking about the animal control contracts for the other towns. Those weren't bid on. None of them were bid on. Those animal control officers were either fired or quit, and we took over their budgets. That's what happened. John, you were part of setting the price for $145,000 with that board. You signed the contract. That was the price you set for us to serve at. So just to make that clear, there was no public complaints about our service. There was no complaints about our price. There was nothing. And then all of a sudden this started, once you got reelected, this came to pass that Upstate was ready to go. 3,000 dogs adopted out by Upstate, and you're having a hard time seeing that as a dog dealer. It's amazing. But thank you for, letting me serve for 10 years. I really do appreciate that. And John, thank you for, what you've done for the town. I do appreciate that. Thank you very much. I do wish you do your homework a little more when you want to comment on the contracts. It wasn't per capita. We didn't do any of that. We helped these towns out, and they asked for our help. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to speak to the town board about town topics? Seeing none? State your name and...
Tom Ordway, Queensbury. So you discussed the savings of 100,000. Oh, by the way, Glens Falls is 3.9, not 6.9. I looked it up for you. You said we were going to save 100,000, but yet Mr. Medevere said that our budget's going to go over with EMS. So did we actually save any money here? Or is it just being relocated? I know we're trying to consolidate services. I understand that. The consolidation now has gone from making one phone call for wildlife, for dogs, for cats, to making 3 or 4 phone calls. I'm still not sure who I'm supposed to call if I have a dog issue tonight. Or April 2nd, excuse me. Am I going to have to call you? Am I going to have to call the sheriff's office? That information has still not been given out. The mode of transportation was brought up in that workshop. We are not a puppy, we don't ship puppies. We drive down and get them. Well, gee, that wasn't an issue. We're not saying that you ship them. We don't care how the dogs get here. You are bringing more dogs into the area when we already have a dog issue. The other issue, the question that George brought up was, he asked, is there going to be somebody dedicated to the town of Queensbury? They said no. Their response to how do you handle a dangerous dog, we shake a box of cookies. Seriously, like we shake a box of cookies at the dangerous dog. How can that be a legitimate answer? If you've ever seen any kind of video about a dangerous dog, the first thing that you should have in your hand is a leash, not a box of cookies. I hope this has been a learning experience. For me, it has totally opened up my eyes to the corruption of politics. So thank you for that.
Town board discussions. Who did we start with last time? I think we started with Tony. Jennifer, anything?
The only thing I want to bring to everyone's attention is March is National Women's History Month. I'd like everyone to take a little bit of time out to join in commemorating and encouraging the study, observance, and celebration of the vital role of women in American history. That's all I have to offer.
Thank you. George?
Well, we live in the Adirondacks, and a lot of people take advantage of the opportunities we have up here. And there's a local organization called the Adirondack Chapter of Trout Unlimited Conservation, and they're having a banquet, I think, coming up this weekend, Saturday, March 24th. It's going to be in Saratoga, but if anybody's interested in that, they can look it up on the internet. And it helps keeping the trout and the anglers catching fish.
Wow, you're whetting my appetite, George. I'd like to get right out there now. All right, is that it, George?
That's it.
Okay, thanks. Catherine?
I just have an alert. A constituent contacted me regarding a suspicious energy company whose agents are making door-to-door intrusive visits to Queensbury residents, trying to gain access into people's homes, insisting they are associated with National Grid, and wanting to see residents' current billing statements to see if they are paying too much for their energy bills. This is just to tell you to beware of someone trying to gain access to your home whom you do not know, or to sign any agreement without trusted advice. The elderly are especially vulnerable. Apparently, a woman of 90 signed a contract in Hudson Falls, and her family is now trying to negate that. The sheriff's office has been notified, but if you or anyone you know has this experience, please contact the sheriff's office right away. That's all I got.
Good advice. Thank you. Tony, anything?
Nothing really to add, no.
All right, well, let me go through my folder here. You got it here. We're searching for volunteers. Warren County Public Health is looking for volunteers for a mock exercise. It's going to be April 3rd between 9:30 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. It's going to be at the Warren County Human Services Building in Queensbury. It's going to be a mock vaccination exercise to test the county's throughput capabilities in case of a real emergency. The exercise is simulated. There will not be any real vaccinations or medication given, but they need participants to help this out so that they could see how they can deal with large numbers of people. So if you're interested and willing, get in touch with Dan Durkee or Janelle Oxford at Warren County Public Health at 761-6580. Okay. Also, got a letter here from Ann Peterson, who is a New York State Home Program, New York State Office of Community Renewal, and talking about the grant and how our grant was administered here, and the audit of your program's performance revealed 0 concerns, and at this time no additional action is required. So that is like getting an A. Also, I'd like to put forth, I'm very proud of, Warren and Washington County's Community College, SUNY Adirondack, and the efforts that Christine Duffy has done there. And there's a nice full-page interview with President Duffy and all about how she's moving our community college forward in addressing our regional needs.
That was in the Albany Business Review, John?
Albany Business Review, yeah, but thank you. I'll save the best for last, okay? All right, coming up this week, the Queensbury Water District, we're doing a couple big projects. We're moving a 24-inch water line. We're not. Pyramid Companies is moving a 24-inch water line that traverses the Aviation Mall's property. The reason why we're doing that is we insisted on a connector road going from development that occurs on the upper level with a signalized intersection. So that water line's being moved to accommodate that connector road. Also, we're going to be doing work on Glenwood Avenue and trying to clean out an old line. So there may be some discoloration to this work in the water this week and maybe into next week. NYSERDA is coming out with an announcement soon. I can't do it until they do, and the governor. However, they put out a nice article on the town of Queensbury and our Clean Energy Committee and all the work that they do, and we do have some members of the committee present here. And they're being chaired by Kathy Pizzoni, and they mentioned me and Catherine Atherton and others town staff that we are looking to complete 7 of the 10 high-impact actions. So we are looking forward to a grant. Okay, we'll save the announcement of that for other people. But we did the Unified Solar Permit, the benchmarking, the Energy Code enforcement training, clean fleets. We're doing solarization. So far in this solarization effort, which we are labeling Southern Adirondacks for solar, the town of Queensbury, the town of Bolton, the town of Hague, the town of Lake George, the village of Lake George, the city of Glens Falls, town of Horicon, and showing an interest in joining us is the town of Warrensburg, town of Chester, and town of Moreau. We've also got the Adirondack Council and others who are joining this effort, being led by Queensbury, but titled again, the Southern Adirondacks for Solar. Also, my usual reading is National Geographic, Smithsonian, and Consumer Reports, and the Post-Star. But in Consumer Reports, they had a rave review of the Chevrolet Bolt. Just thought I'd say. Household Recycling Day, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. Warren County DPW on Main Street in Warrensburg, New York. If you've got tires, no more than 10, you can turn them in up there. It's part of the effort of Warren County Soil and Water. Okay. Supervisors report to town board and community. I assure you this will be quick. March 6th, following the last town board meeting, Tuesday, March 6th, Suffragist Adventurers and Dress Reform presentation put on by Tricia Dalton. It was fantastic. March 7th, I met with a local developer for some more projects on Main Street. I think it should be kept quiet at this time. March 8th, Thursday, but Main Street and Exit 18 has really taken off. That's another thing. Albany Business Review, and this is March 2nd. Northway Exit 18 emerging as the next hot corridor is the headline. And then it goes on. I'm not going to read it, but, you know, we rezoned that. We made the zoning dynamic, flexible, and I think it made a huge difference. And with the efforts of the EDC, we're experiencing some very positive things on Exit 18, so much so, we're in the Albany Business Review. All right, back to this, because I happened to see Main Street and I thought of that article, and I said, well, I didn't share that with you yet. All right, March 8th, we did a comprehensive emergency plan, 2018 HASNY update with Amy Hirsch and some of our town managers. We did an IT or cloud update meeting with Stored Tech, Alan Van Tassel and Timothy Cruz, discuss the infrastructure upgrade, the migration process that we're going to be going through in the next few months. So this is a huge thing. Queensbury is one of the leading communities doing this, transferring our records to a safer environment, a larger environment, and that hardly receives any press. And I discussed shared services with Bob Sears and Mayor Dan Hall. And I think Bob Sears was amazed at how much, in terms of shared services, we're currently doing with the city of Glens Falls. And we're going to be doing more of it. Then I had the Memorial Day Parade Committee. The theme this year is For Those Who Fell. And again, the board, you're all invited to join us in the parade, all elected officials by that matter, in case you want to go. And we're working on that parade. We start working on that parade in February, and it comes forth on Memorial Day in May. Takes a lot of work. Also went to the Open Door Mission Banquet fundraiser. Treasurer Chris Hunsinger was the host, and President CEO Kim Cook and Chair Jeff Leland did great jobs at that fundraiser, and they're doing a great thing, I think, for the community. March 5th, March 9th, Friday, informational meeting with Addictions Care Center and some of the local residents. Kathy attended that with me, Catherine did. And then I went to the West Glens Falls EMS annual banquet. Sunday, March 11th, I was in town doing administrative work most of the day, as I am most Sundays. March 12th, Monday, town board workshop. We got the EDC quarterly report. We got the community choice aggregation presentation. We looked at some zoning change requests by an indoor sawmill operation and by Spruce Hospitality in terms of an MOU they'd like to do in lieu of the cash. We looked at short-term rentals, waterfront residential zoning changes, and EMS contracts. March 13th, Tuesday, we did academic, this over at SUNY Adirondack, I'm on the board. I won't go into that. Met with John Lapper and another developer for a proposal on Aviation Road. Chapman Museum Education Committee meeting, and then I went to the Battle of Sexes at Crandall Library. March 14th, Wednesday, regional sewer study, job discovery, and then town board workshop. We did a town board informational and discussional meeting with SPCA of upstate New York representatives. March 15th, Thursday, I skied at Gore. Sorry, I didn't work. It was fun. March 16th, Friday, County Board of Supervisors meeting, French and Indian War Society, Adirondack Archaeology, Thunder Hunting Game will go on. March 17th, okay, St. Patrick's Day, they had the Adirondack Expo, and I helped Warren County Safe and Quality Bicycle Organization at that Adirondack Expo. And then Sunday, I was again here from 11 to 5. And today, had Environmental Concerns Committee, Faculty Committee, SUNY Foundation candidate meeting, and SUNY board meeting tonight. All right, that does it. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, I'd like to thank Look TV and our cameraman, Joel Barlow, and our sponsors, especially Stored Tech. And thank everybody for attending tonight. Thank you. And is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Farrell.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Switzer. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Firms deal only with prevention, the systems that block hackers and viruses. Stored Tech knows the root cause is actually good people doing bad things. So we offer a security training program which includes certifying all participants to show they understand the basics.
Technology solutions for computers, networks, and phones. Stored Tech, your technology, our passion.
1922, Babe Ruth debuts with the Yankees. WGY signs on air. Exterminator wins the Saratoga Cup, and Pinnell's restaurant opens its doors for the very first time. For 5 generations, Pinnell's has been preparing delicious Italian food, served in a comfortable, home-like setting where everyone is welcomed. 90 years of authentic Italian recipes, 90 years of the freshest ingredients, and 90 years of the finest classic Italian dishes, all made daily by hand. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga dining tradition since 1922.